Good evening, good evening, good evening. Islam to you, greetings to you, my Aboriginal brothers and sisters. Islam to you, my Moorish brothers and sisters, to those who are Moors and are living on the continents of Al Morocco or Amexia, known as the South American, North American, and Central American. So I want to welcome to those who all are looking. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey on the Dr. Matthews-Bey Live. And tonight is a call-in program. I want you to call in to let us discuss one of the major topics that is plaguing you who are living in the corporations around the world, which I mean countries, and really wanted to know what is the issue really with land titling, and land making yourself aware of what is going on in owning properties. So in the meantime, I do that and I want to set up that particular arrangement. I want you to know that you can also comment and I will read your comments if you would like, and especially I want you to call in. I want you to call in to the program using the 611-6575 number, and it's only a WhatsApp number. So I would very much appreciate you that we can engage ourselves in this evening's conversation of enforcing the Constitution. So before I start this evening's topic, let me give you the 30 seconds of what is expected as usual. Thank you very much. Welcome back to those who are now joining. Share the live, share the live, share the live, share the live. And you can comment. I don't have a problem. I am going to respond to you based upon your comments. And I'm going to engage you in a conversation. And one of the conversation is the continent of Amexia, of America, in which I am on presently, which is you call a South American continent, or Al Morocco. Reasoning that you should be able to comprehend what really is going on and how we come to this particular era or this particular phrase. So I want to make sure I'm being able to start it to the point where I help you to see not only the vision in which I'm about to share to you, but help you to really dive into this whole issue about the Americas. Okay? And to those who are looking, to those who are now joining, I want to welcome you again. Share the live. To those who are here, share the live, share the live, share the live, share the live. Now, I want to talk to you first about the Moors and who we are. Before I even start the conversation, I want to be able to help you to comprehend that we are not here to cast a shadow on anyone. We are not here to when I'm talking about we, I'm talking about the Moors, right? As the Moorish High Science Temple, we are not here to take your inalienable rights away from you, to those who are looking, right? We are not here to demand any anyone to stock up to our comprehension of what we teach or how we go about making ourselves known to the general public also, right? We're just Aboriginal, indigenous people who are not only looking to hold these corporations to the treaty in which they they agreed to in the early 1700s, but we're also looking for you to keep up with that agreement. And we have done so through the Moorish High Science Temple, but by no other than our prophet and noble Jew Ali, who would have created that trust so we can always not only own but have a permanent attainment to the land in which belongs to us, which is the Americas. And that trust are only for the Moorish people or the Aboriginal indigenous people. That trust would have been created in such a manner that to keep the treaty, to keep these corporations not only affixed to the treaty that was signed by our forefathers and our foreparents, but with the agreement that they stick to the treaty. And that treaty would have been able to not only to recognize who we are as a people, but also as the true heirs of the land in which we live on. North, South, and Central America. Not only the Americas I'm talking about, but there are other treaties I would have entered into, like the place in which is now called the African continent. There were treaties there were places that was now called Europe and Central Asia, China and Russia, and these places. The treaty and the trust that keeps that treaty alive, that we are the true heirs of the land in which you, the Corporation of Guyana, sits on. That is why I said in one of my earlier programs that I had that the crown lands that everybody's talking about in the Corporation of Guyana, it is not owned by the British. The British doesn't own the land. Crown lands means a temporary loan to the British. Let me help you to comprehend what I'm talking about, and I need to break it down some more. I think I need to break it down some more. What is a corporate subject? What is a corporate? What is a corporation? Guyana is a corporation. Before Guyana, you had British Guyana. British Guyana was a colony of British who settled on the lands of America, or Al Morocco or Amexia, in the early 1600s. There were different types of people or recognition of people settling on the American, Spanish, the British, and they were all trying to fight for space of commerce. So what they have done, when they came here, they met an intelligent group of people. And that intelligent group of people would have already known their languages. And in those languages, you'll get to comprehend the reason why English was created, because English was created for the purpose of commerce, business. English language is a combination of all the languages that we will normally speak. We also had different languages that was languages for commerce, but English was known as a unilateral language. So let me get back to what I was saying. So when they came here, they met a people that was known as the Arawaks or the Bantus, right? They met two sets of people. They met the original set of people that were called the Arawaks. They knew that the Arawaks or the Bantus were the original people of the land. That's why you call it that. They found certain relics of in Belize that dated back tens of thousands of years ago to show you what really or who really lived on the lands before. You can find relics in Belize, you can find relics in Guatemala, in Mexico, you can find relics in Utah. Yes, the Utah, which housed most of the tombs of the early kings then. One of the kings that the Mormons talk about was King Moroni, who was actually known as the Mormons king, the Moors king, right? And you can find relics in places like in Peru, in places like in Argentina, places like in Brazil, places like in Colombia. You'll find relics of us who lived way back then. That we were here according to the studies of Mr. Ivan van Sertima, who brought this subject up and make sure that people like me would have already starting to read and to comprehend about it, that we were here before Columbus. We were here before the people that you know call the Amerindians, who crossed the Bering Straits. According to what is teaching in school now, they call it the ice bridge. The people who crossed the ice bridge to come to the Americas. They also came here and meet us. That's why they were called the Caribs, because of how they crossed the Bering Straits to come into the pathway and the line and the lineage of the Caribbean Peninsula. That's why they call them the Caribs. And the British, they sought a pact with them, and the Dutch sought a pact with them to fight against the Bantus, which are the Moors, the educated ones. And we also have a strong history of us in a place like Suriname. You call them the Serene people. That was the last conversation, the last identification of a people that are normally known as the Moors, and only them have a process of the treaties that they would have signed, not one process of treaties that they would have signed. They call them in Suriname, they call them the Jokers. But that's the original name to identify them were the Serene people. That's how come the name Suriname came about. So they were settling in the places like Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, and in what's this other place? In Dutch Guyana. Because we would have already established ourselves on the continent of Morocco or Amexium, known as the Americas, because this was our home. I knew it. It was the home of my foreparents and my ancestors. The British, the French, the Dutch, and all of them came, even to the Spanish conquest came, the conquistadors, you want to call them. They came and tried to enslave a people. And they couldn't. That's why you had rebellions, because it's hard for you to enslave someone on their own land where they know their backyard very good. But as getting into the conversation, there would have been a treaty before the treaties. I explained to an individual earlier, I said, the last voyage from the continent of Kemet, which is now known as Africa, but the continent of Kemet, the last voyage, documented voyage that came from a place which is called Zulu, which is now called South Africa, showed you that the Zulu king sailed, didn't come here as a slave, with 50 ships from South Africa, Brazil. And in Brazil, the place that they would have inhabited, which has a larger population of Zulu tribe, Bantu tribe. Well, Bantu and Zulu are the same. They just spoke Swahilian language. And they would have settled in a place that you call Rio Negro, or along the Rio Negro, which is the River Negro. And that was the last voyage that we knew that we were not only inhabitants, but we were here far before a lot of people knew, because this was our sailing route. We were back and forth. We were doing business among each other. We were trading with each other. We knew exactly what we were doing. We had full habitation of the land. And as the time goes by, we evolved into a people of good characteristics. As a matter of fact, living souls. We evolved so greater that we knew and did things that were greater beyond scientific experiment, or those who call themselves scientists. They cannot comprehend how we developed ourselves in such a great and larger number. But we were here before. We developed and we orchestrated among ourselves how we will live and how we shall live. And in came the Homo sapiens. Mind you, I said Homo sapiens. I didn't say white. Because white, black, Indian, Negro, colored, African, all these things, all these names are status. It's a status. But there's no white man, there's no Caucasian. They are two different species. One are Homo sapiens, and the other one is called Anglo-Saxons. They know what I mean, but if you check it up, you'll comprehend what I mean. So what happens is that after our foreparents, our ancestors realized that they were inhabitants and busy trying to come and to take our lands away from us, or try to colonize our lands, we designed the treaty. The people are called the Moors. You ask any Anglo-Saxon or any Homo sapien what a Moor is, and they will tell you that the history that they have, that they live by, are the teachings of the Moors. The architectural system that they live by are the teachings of the Moors. And I say Moors with no uncertain term. I say Moors with no apologies. So our prophet and noble Jew Ali, who realized that the trickery of the system that they were intended to violate all the treaties, made sure that a trust was created. So the generations of springs of the Moorish people, or the Bantu people, or the Arawaks that you may want to call us, right, inherit and inhabit the land that belongs to us. All countries live by that treaty. All countries develop their status as a corporation by that treaty. Now we have a trust that was designed that we become the inheritance of that trust and no one else. The Aboriginal people, the ones like me. So when you run around and you talk about, some people talk about ancestral land, we're going to talk about that now. What is the meaning of the ancestral land? What is this thing that they're talking about, ancestral land? How does it come about? How does it come to place? How ancestral land means that lands that belongs to us before the creation of civilization. That's what it means. They don't have any other group of people that come around with that comprehension. They ain't got no other group of people that can say, well, they know how civilization was created. As a matter of fact, civilization is it's a militancy. Right? Just hold a minute for me, please. Civilization is a militancy. That's what civilization, this is what civilization means. Democracy is the same thing. Democracy supports civilization. Democracy supports what you call the rule of militancy. Hold on. Right. Civilization and democracy works hand in hand. They support each other. They know what they're doing. And I wouldn't sit here and tell you things that doesn't make sense. That is why the corporation of Guyana and those who govern it has no access to the land. They have no ownership to the land in which the corporation Guyana sits on. That's the fact. Even to them who claim to be the hierarchies of Guyana, like the Chachuis, what's his name? Nandalal and Jack Dio and Ali, they came here. They have a date of entry. So that is to show you that they have no ownership. They have no authority to own anything or to pass any judgment on anyone in ownership of the land. They have a date of entry. They came here in 1845. Everyone have a date of entry. That's why they celebrate it the 5th of May as Arrival Day. Everybody know when they came. Here was the funniest part of this whole joke. The 5th of May is Arrival Day. Every ethnic group know when they came, except for those that call themselves African or Negro. They have no date of entry. They have no date of entry because we were already here. So that is why it is hard for any other ethnic group or any other species of human beings to claim ownership to the land of the Americas. Everybody has a date of entry. I was telling one of my Indian brothers that, and I know he was a little bit upset, but His ancestors can't claim ownership to the land because they do not belong to Al Morocco. And even if you go to Hindustan, in which they came from, which is now present day India, they still can't claim India because the indigenous people of Hindustan or India are known as Dravidians. They look like me. So even if they want to claim it, it is impossible for them to claim it. Some people ask me, so where did the groups or the different ethnic groups of the world come from? I said, if that's a different conversation. I told him that. I said, if you really want to comprehend where they came from, that's a different conversation. But the conversation tonight is to tell you that the Corporation of Guyana owns no land. And to show you how they are violating their own laws, not the treaty. They already violate the treaty. But their own laws is prescriptive rights that is found in the Constitution under the Lands and Survey Act. It says here, as long as people who are living on the land can provide enough information to show that they're living on that land for more than 30 years, the government cannot claim government access to the land or reserve. The government came here in 1966 and they got people living on the land and still living on the land before 1966. You have people that the ancestral lineage go back way before 1821 when the British came. 1831, as a matter of fact. So, hold on. Oh, yes. So the thing is that the claim to this whole scenario doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Because let us look at facts before we get into the real paperwork. Let us look at facts. How can you claim ownership or ancestral ownership to a land when it shows you by the archives, information in the archives, telling you, giving you a date in which you entered on the land, to settle on the land, by whatever cause? When there is a date, so that means that your ancestors did not came from this land because there's a date showing you when you came. So there's no ancestral claimage. I can't understand how a person who is not an Aboriginal, an indigenous person, has title to a land. Mind you, that the land that is in the trust cannot be bought or sold. It is only for the inhabitants, the first peoples of the land, that are the Aboriginal and indigenous people. Not the Amerindians, so don't let me get this thing twisted. I ain't even come around to them as yet. Not the Amerindians. The Aboriginal indigenous people. So these are the facts. So I am trying to comprehend, because the courts cannot grant someone title to a land when they say that is ancestral land, and by historical facts, according to the ethnic grouping, shows you when they came. They have a date of entry. The 5th of May, 1845, well, they were here, not the 5th of May, but the 5th of May is which they celebrate. They were trying to claim the 5th of May as Indian Arrival Day, but they make it Arrival Day. But they came way down in December. The very first ship landed here in, I think it's around the 12th of December, 1845. Then, the United Nations that was formed after the Second World War issued an edict stating that all colonial countries, corporations, hand back the rulership of the land to the indigenous people. Yes, they passed that in United Nations General Assembly. It's Article 1514 of 1960. A clear and a complete violation. Because at that time, it was known as the United States of America, not a United, the United. And when I say the United, people think that I'm talking about the 52 countries or the 50 states that sits, the 50 cooperated states that sits on the North American continent. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about everything. North, Central, and South America. That's what you call the United States of America. And what they did to make it so confusing, they scrapped that and they created a body that is called the Organization of American States. They don't want to call it the United States of America. The arrangement now is being known as Organization of American States. And to those who know what I'm talking about will have realized that Mr. Joe Biden has kept a summit. And the summit was called the CEO Summit of the Americas. And it was chaired by the Organization of American States. And under that, they dictate how you should run your country. That is in a colonial power still. So they're violating Articles 1514 of 1960 of the United Nations Declaration. That's what they're doing. And they're also violating, Mr. Fraud Ali is violating Articles 4, Articles 20, Articles 25 and 26 and 37 of the Indigenous Peoples Act and Declaration of the United Nations. By removing the original people of their land, which is called Moko Caneview, and Peters Hall that took place today, removing them off their land, discarding of them, want to file it in the official gazette as saying that they abandoned their land. Now, here comes the tricky part now. What is abandonment? Here, what is they going to say now? What is abandonment? They're going to say now, you are Guyanese. You are a product of the corporation or a subject of the corporation. You're identified as a corporate subject or you're identified as a corporate citizens. That is why living souls cannot be corporate subjects or corporate citizens. Human beings can become corporate subjects and corporate citizens because you're identified as a species and you've been given a name and a status. Yes, you don't know. You've been given a name and a status. And they don't call you, give you this thing here, no, here what it tell you. If a child is born, the parent has a right to identify that child as a corporate citizen. And how that child has been identified, I'm going to show you a simple example via way of a birth certificate. To those who doesn't know, when you sign that birth certificate, You're handing your child over to the system, the corporation. The corporation now, according to their laws, which is Guyana, the child is now being owned by the government because it's actually telling the government, well, look, I don't know how to take care of this child. I can't give this child proper medicine, proper education, or feed it properly. So the government owns the right to the child. Yes, you don't know? Of course. They call it the Immunity Act. It gives them direct, yes. And when that child chooses to know to stay on in the corporation, and most people like Guyanese doesn't know what they're doing. They go and apply for their ID card, passport, driver's license. For that, they're giving up their rights now to be seen as a living soul and to be seen as an indigenous person. You're no longer being seen as that because you give up your rights. So that's why they have a problem with me now. Because I surrendered those rights. I'm no longer a slave to the system. I'm having problems today about it. Yes, I am. To those who are looking, that's why I made that very short video today, because I'm having some serious problems with it. But I tend not to make it deter me from what I am. That is why this becomes a problem. This is my Moorish affiliation card. It's my identification to indicate to them that I'm no longer Guyanese. I'm Aboriginal and indigenous to the land in which my foreparents left me, my ancestors. I'm not a son of a slave. If I was, I'm no longer. I'm a living soul. I'm an indigenous person. My birthrights attached to the land. That's why this becomes a problem. The affiliation card that I showed you just now, and the Matthews-Bey, the Moorish American travel document, it becomes a problem to them because they don't want me to teach it. Some persons, like today I was told that, they're on to me. I'm like, how can a brother who I'm fighting for see me as different because I don't want to be attached to the system? Or because I'm running away from the contract to keep a contract that I have made. To keep me attached to it, no. Yes, I would honor those agreements. I must have to. But there's no contract that's going to keep me attached to the system. They think that I'm running behind the fiat currency. No, it makes no sense to me anymore. Because the dollar has no value if I don't spend it. If I don't carry the dollar to the market to buy the processed foods, the poison that we eat on a daily basis, that means the dollar has no value. If I spend it at the market, that means it has value because I am the currency of that piece of paper. But we're not taught those things. We have people who are constantly lying to us. I don't mind. People can see me how they want to see me. But I am Dr. Matthews-Bey. Bey is the name of the title that belongs to the land. So those who have the name Bey, They, Bey, El, and Ali. Not really Ali, El. Is attached to the land. That name is to the land. That is the title, the identification of your lineage, from which you came from, your ancestral lineage. That is why you call it ancestral lands. When I was at last Sunday gone at the Ipadaji program at Critchlow Labour College, that is one of the main issues. They were talking about who bought plantations, fine. But what happened to the rest of the place that slaves didn't bought? Talking about plantation X, Y, and Z, but what happened to the rest of places that slave didn't bought? It becomes null and void? No, it is still void. It is just that it cannot be bought nor sold. And that's the meaning for crown lands. It cannot be bought nor sold. That's why they give you a transport, temporary, to live on the land, to construct a piece of building or a property, but you don't own it. You own the building. You don't own the land because it cannot be bought nor sold. There is a trust that was designed to indicate and to remind you that you have to live according to the treaty, because the trust is for the people who belongs to the land, that are called Aboriginal, indigenous people. And none other than His Noble Prophet Juali make sure that that trust was there for our inheritance, the original people of the land, under the Moorish High Science Temple. These are the facts. These Homo sapiens are not going to run. When I say Homo sapiens, I mean animals, because that's what it means. A lot of us don't know that. You go to a man, any person, any educated Caucasian as you want to call them, or you call them white, ask them what's a Homo sapien. They might be annoyed. Or ask them what's an Anglo-Saxon. They might even be furious because they don't want to describe themselves. They're known as the advanced level of animals. That's the information. Sorry to say that, but that's the truth. But they swing it around and they call it species, the same thing. And how do you identify an Aboriginal people? Fine, simple. An Aboriginal people is heavily, an Aboriginal person is heavily melanised. And that melanation can only come via way of a pineal gland. That is only Aboriginal people or persons you can find that. Living souls. Can't find it in no other race. Sorry to say that, but that's the fact. A pineal gland, yes. And there are 12 strands of the pineal gland. There's a lot of people who know what I'm talking about. So by a heavy level of indoctrination that most of us doesn't know our ancestral lineage, and if you don't know it, you can't claim the land because you have no evidence of your ancestral lineage. So how would you claim the land that you're living on? They're going to say, if the land belongs to you now, as other people are claiming it, you have abandoned it. The reason why you abandoned it, because you now are part of the system. A system that claims democracy and civilization, which means militancy. And the only thing that lives in militancy is animals, because they're always fighting each other. There are always wars and rumors of wars. Look out there and see how the animals of the wilds live. They live by territorial understanding or territorial attributes. They guard their territory. You come into a territory, well, there will be wars. You will have to fight to maintain territory. And that's the way how they have us living. But not merely me anymore. It becomes a serious issue. Some people may say, well, what happened to my great-great-grandfather that bought property? Well, let me be straight with you. Your grandfather, your great-great-grandfather didn't know his rights. If he knew his rights, he wouldn't have bought property. He would know that the property belongs to him. And the trickery of it is that they're presenting papers for the property that your foreparents or your ancestors once owned. They're presenting papers, but the papers can't go past 1831. It has to stay between the boundaries of 1831 and 1966. Anything beyond the boundaries of 1831 and 1960s and 1966 after independence, they're in trouble. So what happens? You can't name Bay nor D. It is hard for you to name Bay or D because your identification will have to be that of Aboriginal. You gotta look like me. That's the fact. So that's why when we say ancestral land, what we mean, we know what we mean. The courts cannot deny us that. The courts came into being after independence. Before that, yes, they had courts too, but under the British colonial system. So the courts cannot rule out the fact that my ancestors lived beyond the time of the British and the Dutch and the French. How would they find it to say that what I'm saying is not factual when every other group of persons or ethnic group has a date of entry on the lands of Morocco or America or Amexia, however you want to put it over. Even to Mr. Obama, when he won his election, his first election, in his inaugural address, he said one of the first countries he gave credence to that recognized the creation of the United States was Morocco. And if you check the historical factors, the United States got an independence in 1976. In 1776. And you had a country, you had a people and a land that they would have called a country, the name of the land, Morocco, known as Morocco, before then, 1776. I'm not talking about the one that is on the continent of Kemet that got its independence a couple of years ago. I'm not talking about that one. Because common sense would have known that he wasn't talking about the Morocco on the continent of Kemet. To those who are looking, please remember that the lines are still open. 611-6575. To those who are looking, I would like to remind you that the Dr. Matthews-Bey Unfiltered is not only seeking to evolve the program on this particular aspect of teaching, but also to use the online radio in which we have GMS Live Radio Guyana. To those who are looking, you can go into your app store. To those who have, is it Play Store, Google Play Store? Yes. To those who have Google Play Store, can go into there and type in, hold on, GMS Live Radio Guyana. Okay, I just sent it there, GMS Live Radio Guyana. It's supposed to be right. I sent it there on all three sites, the Facebook, the YouTube, and the Instagram. I send the information. Let me put it up above the screen. Hold on a bit for me, please. That's it. That's the name. You should go to your Play Store. I don't know about the App Store, the Apple Store. It's not available as yet. I am trying to get it downloaded. And that particular app has been found in Play Store where you can listen to the online radio, especially if I am missed on the Facebook, YouTube, and on Instagram. So now let's get back to informing you about enforcing the Constitution. In this way now, I'm enforcing the Constitution because that's how constitutions were formed, based upon the treaty. Because certain treaty has aspects in how you can do commerce. So when you get your Matthew document, right? When you get this, it helps you now to travel. You must travel free. You live anywhere you feel like because the land belongs to you. And it helps to identify you. So these corporations should not interfere with your everyday life. It becomes a hard topic. Since I've received these documents, I'll be honest with you, to everyone who's looking. Since I have received what I have now, you know, it's a bit tougher. But it could only be tougher if you want to go back into the corporation, back into the system. But it'll become light if you stay away from the system and observe your Aboriginal indigenous rights. I call it your inalienable rights. The right to life, liberty, and property. It is free. The corporations want you to work to pay for it. But life, liberty, and property is free. Since when you gotta pay to live, and if you don't got money, you're dead. That's how some people see it. That's how I was told. I was told last night, midnight last night, and early today. People operated, well, look, well, you know, if you ain't got money, you know, you can't talk to me. Have nothing to say. Well, brother, the paper with the little ink, with the dollar signs don't really make any use or sense to me. Fine, you may got to spend it to do certain things, but I'm not going to worship it. I'm not going to go kill myself for it. Yes, I'm going to do commerce. I would want to engage in it to get certain things done, but I wouldn't make it my way of life. That's the reason why a treaty was signed. That is the reason why you have a trust. That's why a trust was formed and the trust was signed by his noble prophet Juali. Islam to you, my Moors who are now, my Moorish brothers and sisters who are now joining. That is why that was signed. So it could help you to comprehend that we don't live by commerce. You're the ones who want to come and do commerce. So we allow you to. We gave you a treaty. We help you to understand the land in which you claim to want to come and invest and settle on. They have a treaty that you need to observe. They have a treaty that you need to follow. And there, on that treaty, you call it rules and instructions that are called laws, supreme laws. Because you have two types of citizens. You have an Article 3 citizen, and you have an Article 4. You have an Article 14 person, a persona that will describe who you are, and you have an Article 13. Living souls. And to those who are in the legal perspective would know who I'm talking about or what I'm talking about. Those who are living, those who are practicing law will know that there are two different sets of people that we're talking about, two different sets of persona of persons that we're talking about. I want to show you one of them. And I always talk about it. In 2013, there was a case before the Supreme Courts of Guyana, where in Region 7, the Amerindian People's Association, APA, challenged a mining company that was seen to be mining resources upon the inhabited area of that Amerindian village. They went to court and they said to the judge, they are Amerindian indigenous people. The judge knew that there is a difference between Amerindian and indigenous. So the judge said to them, look, you can't want to be Amerindian and indigenous at the same time. You either choose to be indigenous or you either choose to be Amerindian. Which one do you rather? They say Amerindian. So the judge handed the case over to the mining company. They awarded the mining company the judgment that they can carry on mining. Because an Amerindian is a corporate citizen of the Corporation of Guyana. You have no legal rights over the land. If you're indigenous, you have rights, but then you will have to show how you attain those rights. Did you see the trick in it? Did you see the trick in it? The trickery that I'm talking about? To those who know what I'm talking about, you can go on the internet. You can type in Supreme Court rulings on the APA Act, Amerindian People Association Act 2013. Type it in. And you're going to see what I'm talking about. So note that Dr. Matthews-Bey is not going to come here and waste time. Not only come here and waste your time, but waste my time too, with information that doesn't make sense. And to our brothers and sisters who look like me, who are insisting that your brothers and sisters become oppressed continuously, to my brothers and sisters who peddle the oppression, you know what I'm talking about. You know, you need to stop it. I mean, I call you house slaves, but to me that you're worse than that. How can you enslave your own people? Some people don't like when I say these things, but how can you sit there and enslave your own people? How can you sit down and watch your people become oppressed constantly, every day? Their rights have been taken away from them, violated, because they don't know to identify themselves. They don't know what to do next. It is a sad state that you're in, or some of you are in. It is. It is depressive. It is oppressive. That is the reason why I had to read and study and sit down and realize where I am, who I am, what I am. And I have found that liberation process. It started yesterday with some persons I want to liberate from the corporation. And to those who are looking, yes, there are some treaties that were started forming in since 1698 and 1701, but it came into fruition, actions, in 1777, 1787, and 1845. Nothing but a good read and study. If you want to know more about the Moors, M-U-U-R-S or M-O-O-R-S, go look up on the internet. Let us use the internet in which it's designed for. Take control or take charge of your algorithm and check up Ivan van Sertima. You would be well schooled of who the individual is. A lot of people don't talk about him because he doesn't speak the things of the corporate status. He speaks the things that before corporation was developed, or they call it civilization. I would call it commerce, because that is what they're here to do, commerce. But check him up. Check up who are the Moors. Type it in. Who are the Moors, and they're going to teach you who are the Moors. Check up who are the serene people. Then you'll find out the name Suriname came from. The serene people. Check up who are them. You will learn all these things. It's there. Even if you can't find it because the British Archives, you have to pay. Certain information, if you want to go read certain papers on the British Archives on the internet, you will have to pay. But check up the informations that are free. Yes, to some people who are writing, it's an eye-opening. It is. That is why when I decided to come to talk to my people, because I realized that my people, my brothers and sisters, my Aboriginal brothers and sisters who live in the corporation of Guyana, because of their status, they're not being edified. So I have to meet them halfway. I have to go into the political arena, although I'm not a politician, and speak to them, awaken their ideas, turn on that light bulb, that switch, and help them to see the truth and edify them, not educate. Because the only thing you can educate is an animal. You have to edify the living soul. You have to feed it. It has to consume the kind of nutriments that it needs to survive. And it's the same kind of nutriments I'm now giving to you. That is why they study us. Yes. They study us. And the study that they study is called the chemistry. Out of us, they gain the name chemistry. To those science students in those universities, when you see where the word chemistry derives from, then you'll know the kind of people who they're talking about. Neutrons, electrons, and solutrons. It is the chemistry of a people that they're studying. Because when they look in our bodies, they see the same thing. That is why they cannot describe us. They call us the people of the multiverse. We're always continuing. We have no ending. They don't want you to know that. But you have to study them to make yourself approved. It's you have to study. Don't ask an animal to tell you who you are. Don't ask a Homo sapien to describe who you be. Stop asking them for help. The information is right there. Why should I ask a Homo sapien who enslaved my ancestors, who tried to enslave them, as a matter of fact? Why do you think Coffee and Damon are always escaping, always in a slave rebellion? It is the people who owns land. They know where they came. They know their backyard. How can you enslave somebody where you don't know their backyard, but they know it? You will always have an uprising. You will always have an escape. But if you take me to a place where I don't know, well, then I will escape. No, then when I don't know the place in which I am, well, then I will remain there. Because I don't know the place. Where am I going to run and go? To my friend, who I want to refer to, the word black is a stature. It does not represent us. Stop saying black people. Say Aboriginal people, or Aboriginal persons, or Aboriginal living souls. Stop saying black people. We're not black, we're Aboriginal. Black is a color of law. It's a stature. It's an adjective, means ownership. That's what it means. Even to the word Africa. Before the Berlin Conference, Africa wasn't known as Africa. It was known as Kemeth. It was known as Nubia, according to the dynasty. It is known as Ethiopia. It was known as Haisup, which today is now called Egypt. It was known as a lot of things, but it was never Africa. Africa was renamed by a European general named Africanus, who think it was a plot of land. Wants to give it his wife as a gift. We have to know these historical things. We have to be aware when people come up to us and say, oh, I want to give your organization some support as a black organization. And for you, you know what it means. But you sit down to accept it. Oh, yes, no problem, because it represents us. No, it doesn't represent you. It represents an indoctrinated slave. That's what it represents. We need to get rid of this comprehension. And it's like I want to respond to this young man also too. The word Bible is a Greek word, means library, a place to store some sort of information. That's what it means. It's a Greek word, means library. We need to do some more digging and some more reading. That's why to those who are part of the liberation, that I've starting yesterday would know that I've asked lots of people to download the etymology app to their phone. Etymology, etymology app to their phone, Etymology Explorer. Download it to your phone and check up these words before you talk. It's not the meaning of the word, it's which the word was created for. There's two different things. The creation of the word and the meaning of the word are two different things. And that's where we know how we live by a color of law. Because to that I will ask you to download. Well, I have the Black Laws Dictionary. That is a PDF file that I can share with some of you, but your phone has to have real space to download the Black Law Dictionary. So you can learn the color of law that you're being governed by. We need to comprehend these things. It is hard, I know it's hard, to unindoctrinate yourself from the indoctrination that you're living by. I know it's hard. Because some of us would have born in it and grown. I'm born in it. I was born a slave. As a citizen of the Corporation of Guyana, I was born a slave. I had a birth certificate. I worked in the system. I know what it is. The question I ask a lot of people, they say without money you can't live. So I asked them, I said, the things that you eat, that you eat, whether it be the fruits or the vegetation that is plants like the callaloo and the pak chai and the cabbage. Have you ever seen a farmer take literal cash, the money, and go and plant it, push it into the soil to make the tree grow? No. I have never seen it done. I would like for somebody to tell me that they've seen it done. But some people say, but if you don't buy the manure, how will the food grow? But the manure is right around you. The manure is right around you. It's in and around you. It is how they've been planting for years. The system just speed it up. That's what the system did. Try to speed up the process by adding chemicals. And now they're telling you, if you don't buy the fertilizer, you can't grow the food. That means they're telling you if you don't poison your brothers and sisters, you can't survive because they don't allow you to plant. Since when? They don't own the land. The land has been put in a trust by none other than His noble prophet Juali, and that trust are for the Moorish Aboriginal people. That trust tells you about the demographics of the land to indicate to you that it cannot be bought nor it cannot be sold. It is for the people who from the Aboriginal ancestry, the present day generation of Moors. This is the fact. I ain't gonna sit down and waste time. I'm not going to sit down and waste time. It makes no sense. I ain't gonna sit down and waste you time nor me time. I'm going to help you to inform you about what is going on constantly. I'm going to bring the truth and the facts to you. My Aboriginal brothers and sisters, my Moorish brothers and sisters, Islam to you. Islam and peace as we come into this new era of knowledge, to put ourselves above everything so we can survive without these corporations. We can show the world that we can survive. I want to thank those who took the time to come on this live, to let us have this chat. To those who are still interested in contacting me, you can send me some voice notes. I can play it back in our next section. But I want to thank you very much for the time that you've taken to turn on the social media platform and to let's have this discussion. I want to thank you too to inviting your children, your offspring, so they also can learn. I've spent time and time again edifying my children, so they can learn the truth. What I want to say to you, once again, thank you very much. To stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, and wear a mask. And don't forget the little ones when you take them into public places. The liberation session continues. To liberate yourself from a system, it continues. I want you to make contact with me to the same number given. I've posted it on my Facebook page. I'm going to repost it again. To liberate yourself and come, let's be the family we once were. And to take charge of our lives, not a slave system, not a corporation, not the commerce that you are involved in. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey saying good night, thank you, and Cheerios for now.